So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a technique and tool that I've been using in my own research and my own teaching here at Queen's, which is using a tool known as Gather.Town, which is an online proximity-based video conferencing platform, and I'll introduce that later on in the presentation today. So we know, obviously, with distance learning, we had most universities in the UK had to abruptly adopt a distance learning approach. And so we had to try to engage and encourage students to progress with their education, engage with their studies in this online environment. But often students in this distance learning or DL environment, they really struggle with their sense of isolation, struggle with forming identities within their learning cohorts, and also limit with their engagement with their academic studies. And so we know this across many different fields, many different levels, but particularly this is a case within higher education, and there's quite a lot of information and data now over the last few years on that. So most of what universities had to do when they adopted online teaching is that they delivered their lessons, particularly lectures, as well as practical sessions, online using what are known as static video conferencing platforms. So this is like Microsoft Teams, like we're using today, or Zoom, if other people use Zoom. And basically that's where we have the sage on stage kind of preaching out to the people, and that there's not much engagement or self-pacing within the learning of the students in that environment. So they don't really provide opportunities for self-pacing. But there is an ability to access resources in a self-directed manner. Well, students have access to resources that they can access in their own pace and determine how their own learning is facilitated in those environments. That might enhance their engagement and enhance their learning processes. So Gather.Town is a platform which allows us to do that. So this is a screenshot of a Gather.Town where I used it in my own teaching. So you have this two-dimensional space where you and the students arrive. And the idea is you have an avatar. So this is my avatar at the top here. And you walk around this space. You can provide resources in this space for the students to interact with. And the idea is if the students are close to you in proximity, so if your avatar is close to their avatar, you can bring up the video like we're having now. So you can see them, you can hear them, they can share their screen, they can have a chat with you using the chat bot function here on the left-hand side. So you have all these functionalities that you would have in static video conferencing software, but in a more dynamic way. And the idea is then whenever the students enter this space, they can access the resources that you plant in this space. So that you could put posters here, you can put videos, you could put links to websites, or even lecture slides. And the students can access those spaces wherever they need to go. But they can also talk to you as a demonstrator if they need that, functionality too. One thing to notice about Gather.Town, though, currently is it's only free for less than 25 users in one space at one time. So if you do have larger classes, like I had in my example, I split my classes into two, and I provided half the class with their teaching session and the other class with their teaching session. Okay, so what did it look like then? So in my environment, I had it was a final year of a 4-year agricultural technology course. They had to complete a practical session in statistics learning or data analysis. Using RStudio, and this happened over a 5-week period. So every week I give a 1-hour session with the class about this practical session. So I taught them the skills, and they also had us as demonstrators, me and myself and 3 other PhD students, to talk about their analysis with. So they had a task to complete at the end of those 5 weeks. I provided in this space recordings for them, posters, worksheets, and they also had us as demonstrators to engage with during the sessions as well. There were 38 students in the course, and so I split those into 2 groups, as I said, so about 19 students in each environment, in each space. And then there was 3 educators to that space as well. So during this whole session over the 5 weeks, I then asked students a quick form about Gather.Town, or GT as I've referred to it here. I asked them on their preference of Gather.Town relative to other static video conferencing software such as Microsoft Teams, which we usually use in Queen's. I gave them ranking questions on the platform, so which aspect of the platform did they enjoy, and I also gave them free text responses as well to see if they had anything else to say. And educators were asked the same thing about Likert skills and how they felt the teaching went in this proximity-based platform environment. And of course, all the responses were anonymous. So at the end of this session, 86% of the students felt that Gather.Town was a better or the same as the alternative, such as Microsoft Teams. So you can see that in here. So they thought it was better than other distance learning platforms. Some of them felt it was better than a face-to-face session, but I think it was just because of the opportunity they had to speak to many people. So you can see that here the student has identified that you can speak with lecturers about your issues or problems more freely in front of the whole class than in Microsoft Teams, where you have to, in Microsoft Teams, you'll have to speak in front of the whole class. With this, you can find the lecturers in kind of pockets and speak with them in a more direct sense. And it was much more informal. We kept seeing this word informal, but the students enjoyed the informality of this. And it was a good virtual interaction between participants in the session. And what they enjoyed about it was also their interaction with peers. So we've seen that 86% of students and educators rank the ability to engage with teachers and peers as being the most important features of the process. So we give them 6 different features of the program. And 86% of them said it was mostly the ability to discuss with lecturers, the ability to discuss with peers, that they really enjoyed about this relative to other static video conferencing software such as Microsoft Teams. And then the ability to interact with objects was ranked 3rd in this environment. So they're able to interact with the presentation and in their own space. So the student said that there was more options to talk and interact with peers. However, I do miss the classroom experience due to COVID. What they found less important was their ability to provide or to access private spaces and the aesthetics of the program. So it really kind of shows that they really enjoyed the functional aspects of this program. And they said it was more realistic and dynamic to have this peer-to-peer engagement rather than static forums. We asked educators about then what they might use this program for in future. The educators were very keen to keep using this in terms of lectures, but they were very, very keen here, 100% saying that they would use it in future for delivering virtual practicals or online practicals, and even using it to communicate with students. So we know after pandemic and post-pandemic, we're going to be looking forward to a blended approach to our learning. And so we would suggest that we could use Gather.Town as an engaging way for the students to learn about their practical skills, to have that self-paced learning where they can engage with materials that they want to, when they want to, and engage with the demonstrators or the educators whenever they're ready to, rather than having to be forced to do so in a static video conferencing platform. Or it's more easy to do that in the proximity base. So it's possible then maybe to have Gather.Town as a platform for even study groups, where students could access these and create their own environments and use these as study platforms in a remote setting. So instead of having to gather with other people in a physical location on campus, they could use Gather.Town as a way to develop these study groups and to use these more effectively in a remote setting over time. So we really hope that Gather.Town can be used as a way to integrate as part of a long-term distance learning or a blended approach to learning in university. So just to conclude then, so the students overall rated Gather.Town a 4 out of 5, as well as the educators. So what it does is offers an opportunity for self-paced distance learning in a synchronized manner, which static platforms find difficulty in. The preparation of materials in advance is relatively straightforward, and as I said, it's free for less than 25 members. So there's many different possibilities for us to use these environments in different ways to engage our students in different facilities. So I'll just leave you with this comment from this educator who said that Gather.Town is a great idea and delivers an exciting alternative to static video call platforms such as Microsoft Teams. And I hope I've been able to demonstrate that to you today. So I'll just invite any questions. I know there's quite a lot of information to cover in quite a short period, but I'll be looking forward to discuss this further with you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's really interesting. Please, if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat or raise your hand. But the immediate question, you've discussed there how it's more engaging than a static video tool like Teams. Now, what is more engaging? Because I guess that's the key question. Because some of the features around engagement, to be able to have discussions, to be able to link, one-to-ones, and all those opportunities. Microsoft would say, and we've demonstrated today that you can do that. So what is it about Gather.Town that lifts it beyond what Teams can manage?
Yeah, I think for the students, at least talking to them individually about it, was the informality of it. So they felt that they were quite restricted with and quite forced to have the engagement with each other, or if you put them in breakout rooms, that they were forced to to be with people and not necessarily have as much freedom as they might have about their education. And about their exploration of that education. So I think with Gather.Town, because they can actually move their avatar in the space, that they can, remove themselves from conversations or talk to engage with conversations in a more in a choice in more of an effective choice manner. So I think they feel that they have more choice in that environment, and they feel that there's less pressure maybe for them to engage in those educational yeah, so I think
So it's that sense
even if
of
it's fake, even if you say you have to go to this room. So what I had set up in my environment is I set up multiple rooms, and if they want to go to this room if they want to focus on this task, or go to this room if they want to focus on this task, they although they kind of had to go through all those tasks, they had that freedom to choose when they want to go to the task or how they want to engage with that task. And I think that really improved engagement with for the students.
so it's that sense of mobility and presence, being
Yeah,
able to be a wallflower in a meeting, which you can't manage in teams. We're all the same. Um,
absolutely.
okay, I think there's some questions, some direct questions, which hopefully we can rattle through because I want to give you all enough time to get over to the next keynote. Jed asked, does it integrate with Data Studio or Power BI?
I'm not sure. I'm afraid it's not something I've engaged with previously. But yeah, but I'd love to keep in touch with you about that if this was something I want to talk about.
Okay, Corey asked, did you deliver lectures in Gather.Town space or more guided discussion?
It was lectures. So the first part of my practical series was about an hour each session. I gave a lecture for about 20 minutes, and then they were able to, for the last 45 minutes or 40 minutes or so, they're able to engage with the materials around them and the demonstrators and myself. So you can use different objects like the podium because so in Gather.Town you can only present to people close to you, but you can use objects like the podium where you can then talk to the whole environment at one time. So everyone sees your screen, but you don't necessarily see theirs. So that's a good way to kind of deliver both lectures and also to do group discussions. So ours was more lecture focused, I guess.
Okay, and Jed asked, do you have quantitative engagement data?
No, we just have the surveys from the students. So no, I don't have any quantitative engagement data, unfortunately. That's one thing with Gather.Town, which is a shame right now, is that it's because it's mostly made. It was made for informal gatherings due to COVID. Then it was started using by conferences, and then I think more recently started being used for educational purposes. So it doesn't have the same learner analytics maybe that other softwares and platforms would have. So we don't have that level of engagement, who's clicked on what link and who's engaging with a survey and how many people are coming in at one time. You have the history of your chat, so you can see how much they're using the chat function. But other than that, it's difficult to get learner analytics at this stage.
Okay, and final question, do you see a space for Gather.Town now that we're all moving out of lockdown in a hybrid space?
Yes. So currently, what I'd like to use this for actually to investigate this space for is an opportunity for personal tutoring and providing study spaces for students. So quite often the students are not coming to campus so regularly, or they have part-time jobs at home and stuff. So they're kind of working in a dynamic space. What I would like to do is create this online informal space where they can connect with other learners in their year, in their course, in an informal space such as Gather.Town, where it's much more student directed rather than teacher directed. So we can create the space for them and say, here you go, at the beginning of the year, here's information on well-being services, here's information on learning development services, etc. But use this space throughout the year to come and support each other and to find more information about that and to feel less isolated. And so I'm really hoping to use Gather.Town as a way to do that. We're actually I'm doing this with the collaborator University of Sheffield, Sky Zhao. Sky Zhao. So if you are interested, please do get in touch. And we're looking to do some
I
research on
think
that.
so. So sorry. Thank you. I think I would be interested to see how that works. In reality, if students are choosing to continue to use this tool when they can also meet face to face, it's going to be really interesting to find out how you develop that. So please, I hope to hear more about that in the future.